Charmaine. Before I speak, I'm going to introduce Gautam who's the the Executive Director of the Asian American Action Fund. Gautam is going to talk about some national candidates, and I will later talk about Illinois.
Thanks, Selma. 2 years ago, Virginia Senator George Allen didn't think much of Asian Americans. At the time, most people thought that he would coast to an easy re-election, and then run for president, and then clinch the GOP presidential nomination. But as Allen soon learned, one word can literally change history. At a campaign rally, Allen called an Asian American staffer of Jim Webb, Esor Sadar, first a foreigner, and second, to add to that, he called him a racially charged term, macaca. A couple months later, Allen was out of the job. Literally, because 76% of Asian Americans voted for Jim Webb. Without the Asian American vote, Jim Webb wouldn't have defeated George Allen. Without the Asian American vote, we wouldn't have taken back the Senate. Now, in 2008, with the Asian American vote, we're going to win Virginia, we're going to win Nevada, we're going to win Pennsylvania, Washington, Oregon, Colorado, and many others. And most importantly, with the Asian American vote, Barack Obama and Joe Biden will be elected president and vice president this November. I'm executive director of the Asian American Action Fund. We're a national democratic organization that empowers the Asian American community in 3 different ways. One is we aim to get more and more Asian Americans involved in the political process. There are many ways to do it, as we all know: volunteer, phone bank, fundraise, and actually work on campaigns, many, many ways. Another way we do it, of course, is by supporting candidates through fundraising, through giving them technical expertise, and helping promising candidates who care about the Asian American community to win. And last of all, we also work to educate the media and community at large on issues that really matter to Asian Americans. Toward that end, last year we launched a cutting-edge blog which features very sophisticated political commentary. In fact, over the last couple of months, our readership has exploded. In fact, it's doubling in the last couple of months. And now we're extensively quoted on Associated Press, MSNBC, a lot of the major outlets, Huffington Post, and so forth. I'd be remiss in not mentioning that Mike Honda, the vice chair of the DNC, is our chair of our honorary board, and you will be hearing from him in the days to come. Well, to get to the point of today, which is how do we get more Asians involved? How do we get more Asian Americans elected? While we've made great strides, Asian Americans are still underrepresented at all levels of government. Through our experience in working with candidates over the last 8 years, almost a decade, we have 3 thoughts to share on that. First is that Asian Americans can get elected in pretty much any part of the country. There's a myth that's out there, which I would call the California myth, namely that Asians can only get elected in places where they're in big numbers. Well, there's some truth to that. Last year, or rather in 2006, my old boss, John Chung, beat the odds and became state controller of California. We also have a really good congressional candidate, Edwin Chow, who's tackling a really ethically challenged candidate by the name, he's a congressman by the name of Gary Miller in Southern California. But at the same time, look at the rest of the country. Well, let's start with Colorado. We've got a great candidate here who we just endorsed, Han Gang. Please stand. Then in Iowa, we're supporting Swati Dandekar, a 2-term state representative who's now running for state senate. Her district is 99.9% white. That didn't stop her from getting elected. Then in Minnesota, we have Ashwin Madhya, an Iraq war vet who's running for Congress, and he's running a heck of a race, and with everybody's help, he is going to win. And then let's go to Texas, which a lot of people think is as a red state. Let's look at Hubert Vo, the first Vietnamese-American Democrat to be elected to a state house. He was elected in 2004 after, get this, 3 recounts. If I remember right, I think his final margin was 18 votes. And he got reelected once, and he's on his path to get reelected again on the heels of such a strong national ticket. So that's one thought. Asian Americans can get elected from everywhere. Second is that building pan-Asian support, to echo George Bush, is hard work. automatic that just because you're Asian, all other Asian groups are going to support you. You know, you have to work at it because this is a very diverse community. Lots of different ethnicities, lots of different languages, but you know, with a lot of things in common. The immigration experience, the experience of being an underdog, the experience of being, you know, invisible and sometimes, unfortunately, called a foreigner. So there are a lot of things that we have in common, but it takes a lot of work. And the good news is that we're getting it done. You know, John Chung built a heck of a coalition between all Asian American groups and then reached out to everybody else, the community at large, African Americans, Latinos, to win the Democratic primary when he had been outspent almost 2-1. So it can be done. Then the other part is way more challenging. It's to get second-generation Asian Americans involved as well. I should backtrack for a bit. First-generation Asian Americans a lot of times may not view themselves as Asian, right? They might view themselves as Indian American or Korean American or Chinese American. So it takes some work to reach out to community leaders to convince them and show them why it makes sense to work together. So that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is paradoxical. You know, the second generation is typically, you know, more adept with, it's more adept with American culture. It's grown, and most folks have grown up here, but they're less likely to vote. So that takes some more work. The good news is, let's see, 95% of them are wired on the internet. So if we can find a way to get them excited, then we can get them to form a really amazing and powerful coalition with first generation and second generation. Because first generation has energy, and second generation has energy and money. And you know what? That matters too. Finally, you know, this is, I think, something that people neglect, but Asian Americans will strongly support any candidate who, regardless of whether Asian or non-Asian, if they support and care about Asian American issues. Look at Jim Webb. You know, in that case, Asian Americans provide the margin of victory for him. Or look at Joe Sestak a couple years ago in Pennsylvania. Asian Americans formed most of his volunteer base there. So, you know, I don't want to talk too long, and I know that there's 1 minute over there. So, I grew up in the state of Texas, and there's a saying there that you dance with the one who brung you. Time and time again, Asian Americans have delivered victory to a new generation of leaders. And in 2008, Asian Americans have finally come a political age. To use Ginger's analogy, we're now issuing an IPO. And it's now our job to make sure that we get as many buyers as possible and the stock price scores sky high. Thank you very much.